For more on this, I'd like to bring in Allison Jaslow, former U.S. Army captain, Iraq War veteran, and CEO of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Welcome and thank you for being with us. I know that you are particularly concerned about U.S. troops in the Middle East right now. Talk about your worry.
Well, I think the reality is that we still have troops that are deployed abroad. I think prior to everything that went down in Gaza and Israel, there were troops already deployed in Iraq and in Syria. And because of the volatility in the region, these troops are now targets by Iran-backed militias. And I think we need to both keep an eye on what's happening in Israel and with our ally, but also with U.S. troops that are in Syria and Iraq as well.
And what more would you like to see the U.S. do or say in terms of protecting our troops abroad?
Well, I think the U.S. government is doing everything that they need to be doing for our troops. I think it's the American people who I wish had a little more awareness around the troops that are in danger, whether it's those who've been pre-positioned off the coast, which that's gotten a lot of attention. The carriers that have been, turned around and sent off the coast of Israel to show force and to make sure that we've got the back of our ally there. But there are these troops that are, fighting and have been fighting terrorism abroad for some time that haven't gotten enough attention. And we need to know that they are as much at risk as our ally right now.
Robert talked a moment ago about the likelihood of a ceasefire and talks continuing. How likely do you think that is, given where things stand right now with the ground offensive now moving south?
I mean, I think it would be good for everyone if we could have another pause. I don't know that you can characterize the previous pause as an actual ceasefire. But, there are still hostages that are being held. And I think that if we can't get to a good agreement on releasing more hostages, then I don't know that you're going to see another pause in the foreseeable future. But I think it'll be good for the globe, but also those who want loved ones back in their arms if we could find a way to another pause. But I think it's still day by day.
Yeah, the call is to bring every single hostage home. Talk for a moment about Israel's military might, specifically the IDF's special joint operations and what we're seeing.
Well, I think, no different than the American military. They're in a unique position to be able to fight both, a traditional ground war, but to also send in special forces, which is what you have to do when you are trying to basically suss out terrorists, right? Like this is a combatant that is on a battlefield that is riddled with civilians, which of course is something that you've covered. And it's really hard to be able to take an enemy like that head on. You have to both show force in a traditional way, but then also try to navigate what is a very complex battlefield, using and leveraging, special forces to be able to try and find. I mean, you're showing the tunnels right there. And it's like, your grade A infantryman isn't necessarily going to just dive into a tunnel. So being able to basically fight this war on multiple parallel tracks is kind of what the situation demands.
Right. And so how do you, in this type of battle, gauge success? We talked about a moment ago the amount of tunnels that they've been able to infiltrate and destroy.
I think, if the United States learned anything in the wars that we fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's that it's really hard to gauge what success looks like in an environment like this. You're fighting an enemy that doesn't play by the same rules that we do. I want the people of Israel to feel safe at the end of the day, but this is going to be a very complex battle, both in the short term and in the long term. And I think the global community also has to consider how we want to fight terrorism from this point forward as well, because it's not just Hamas, it's Hezbollah, it's ISIS, it's, they are not just in Gaza. There are pockets of terrorists in Niger and in Iraq and in Syria. And so I think the larger conversation that we need to have here is what we will and won't tolerate as an international community from terrorists.
Right. Hate coming in so many different forms. Allison Jaslow, thank you for your perspective. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.